Here's 8 possible things that are going to affect the cost of motoring for us in probably the near to medium term. I saw Geraldine Herbert, the motoring journalist, had something on her website which was about a white paper that's to do with future coming tax strategy, and I was talking to one of the motoring distributors about it yesterday as well. Man, does it ever stop raining. Anyway, the purpose of a white paper basically is for government to inform other politicians and the public of their intentions, of their policies, of their vision, of their goals going forward. The first one is actually going to be phasing out the diesel gap. So in other words, the excise on diesel is traditionally and has been lower than it was on petrol for the last few years. Reducing the diesel gap, essentially we making the excise the same on petrol and diesel. So diesel is currently a little bit less, the excise that you pay on diesel. But we live in Europe and there's European commissions for climate change and all that kind of stuff, and they're telling member states to reduce the gap. So in this case, it would mean that excise would be the same on petrol and diesel, but that would mean now diesel would go up specifically. Diesel is it's more complex in terms of its combustion characteristics than petrol, produces more chemicals, so this is probably something that's going to be in the firing line going forward. The second point is more for the heavy goods people, so it's there's a diesel rebate scheme for heavy goods haulers. The EU want to phase out this diesel rebate scheme, but short term it's really unlikely, because heavy goods haulers are not going to be able to handle that unless there's some kind of alternative to diesel found short term, which you can't really see happening, but it is something that they're thinking about. It's just down Waterford there actually. Waterford's a lovely county. I had a customer that picked up a Santa Fe and there was an issue with the USB, so on the day he was picking up, so I said, look, you go down, bring the car back up to me, and whenever I fix it I'll drop it back down to you. So here we are. Anyway, the third one is going to be a real tricky thing to implement, and they've moved moves in France and Norway to actually implement this already. Anyway, the third one is a weight-based vehicle tax. So again, this is like an advisory council way of addressing fuel consumption of larger vehicles and just physical space they take up on the road. So if it ever came to fruition, basically it would be like a progressive system where the taxation level gets higher as the vehicle gets bigger. But the problem is you'd have VRT, you'd have NOx, which we already have, and then possibly at some stage something along the lines of a weight tax as well. So it would make motoring expensive, more so than it already is. The fourth one then is just how the government are going to recover taxes going forward. So say for example we all move into low emitting vehicles, whatever it is, something with a battery or something that happens to be really low emissions. Government is now losing out on taxation revenues from some of the higher emitting cars that have been here for years. Possible ways to circumvent that include usage charges on the road, congestion charges, or then they'll just start targeting whatever high emitting cars are left and actually increase the taxation on those even higher. One thing to be mindful of here, these things aren't definitely happening. I'm driving a diesel car, I need to go get diesel in it now, so and I'm not saying diesel cars are going to disappear anytime soon or straight away, but these are possible things that are going to shape motoring as we move forward. Yep, pretty sure I'm not going to go a whole lot further. So other points that have been noted, so 4 more recommendations or options. So a fifth point or recommendation, basically 26 million quid could be raised by just increasing VRT on some of the higher emission vehicles by 1%. And the data is based on registrations that were carried out in the year 2023. The sixth point then is to do with electric vehicles. Everyone loves an old debate about electric cars. Anyway, the VRT rebate that was on them was meant to end in the year 2025 next year. Most likely that's going to be recommended to be continued. So to continue a VRT relief on battery electric vehicles. Seventh point of note then is to do with the NOx charge that's already on cars. So we have an NOx charge, and that is to do with nitrous oxide, especially on diesels. So they're talking about increasing that by €5 per milligram per kilometre, and they reckon that'll yield about 15.5 million quid per year. The last point then is to do with light commercial vehicles. 97% of light commercial vehicles in Ireland are diesel. So anyway, they're talking about coming up with an emissions-based taxation system for light commercial vehicles, which at the moment, no matter, they're taxed basically on the same rate, no matter what sort of level of emissions they put out. So that's the 8th point. Anyway, these are all just recommendations, but they're kind of things that the government is thinking about policy-wise going forward, which comes from Europe, I'm sure, at some level. So hopefully that is useful to some people. Thanks for watching.